The Surrealist Paradise of Edward James. Walking around in this concrete Garden of Eden, you are constantly amazed by these incredible structures where unpredictability lies around every corner. Narrow paths and mind-bending shapes all embraced by the vegetation of the jungle, you find yourself strolling around for hours, completely losing all sense of time. It is so much bigger than I could have imagined, and after an hour we had already lost each other in this architectural maze. Edward James, a British millionaire, possible son of a king, one of the most eccentric and interesting 20th century collectors of surrealist art, arrived in Xilitla, Mexico at the end of the 1940s to build the Garden of Eden. This is not a fairy tale, the stairway to heaven is in Las Pozas, Xilitla. The British writer was captivated by the splendor of the landscape of Las Pozas, the wells, where he created a fantastic home, which includes a unique sculptural space unlike any other in the world. Surrealism, whose sources of creation are found in dreams and the subconscious, in theory, could never be used to build things in real life. Edward James, described by Salvador Dali as crazier than all the surrealists together, designed a sculpture garden that defies any architectural label and allows a glimpse of something new, moving between fantasy and reality. Columns with capitals that look like giant flowers, Gothic arches, dramatic gates, pavilions with undetermined levels and spiral staircases that end abruptly in mid-air, as if they were an invitation to the horizon. In short, Edward James made concrete flourish along the lush flora and fauna of Xilitla, making surrealist architecture possible. Las Pozas, the Wells, is a collection of concrete architectural structures and fantastic routes that make up a sculpture garden. A river with waterfalls runs through the garden, and it is surrounded by jungle in a vast terrain. Its design was conceived by Edward James and Plutarco Gastelum in Xilitla, Mexico. As the story goes, when they were exploring the Huastica Potosina, a cloud of butterflies surrounded James and Gastelum while they were bathing in the river. The British writer interpreted this event as a magical sign. So, between 1947 and 1949, he began the construction of his version of the Garden of Eden. During the first few decades, James focused his attention on horticulture. However, in 1962 a blizzard destroyed his collection of orchids. He then decided to build a perpetual garden and began to build concrete structures that resembled floral elements. Since then, the sculpture garden has been converted into a source of creation and work for the locals. The entire construction of Las Pozas took about 150 people, including carpenters, bricklayers, and gardeners. In 1984 Edward James died during a trip to northern Italy, and in 1991 the doors of Las Pozas were opened to tourists. Since 2007, the Xilitla Fund has worked on their conservation and dissemination, although getting to the jungle continues to be an adventure. From the state capital, a 4-hour car journey will take you to this remote place, which James found in the 1940s in the company of Plutarco Gastelum, a young man of Yaqui origin. Clearly, these fantastic works could not be replicated in our ordinary cities, but they certainly present a new way of looking at the reality of architecture we produce every day. It is through new perspectives that we can imagine new ways of living.